welcome to the Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast. Jacob Dahlin here with Leksand profile Mattias Kolan Karlsson. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
This episode is brought to you by Scandlux, your home for Scandinavian luxury products for the U.S. market. You can find us at scandlux.com.
So we're going to start. It's a little bit, not sure how to introduce you got a long background and a long playing career and just recently retired and so on. But why don't we start with Kolan, your nickname, and how that translates into the U.S.?
Well, I don't really know how to translate it. It's more like I think when I was a junior player, my first year up in SHL with Brynäs, we had a guy in our team. He was like paying attention to me on the bus rides, and I don't know if he thought that I was drinking a lot of Coke or if I was eating candy, but somehow my last name Karlsson got mixed up with that. So that's how it
stuck.
Turned out. Yeah, and it's been like that for 20 years now.
Well, it's a good one, Kolan. I mean, it's what everybody knows you as, and so on. So I like it. So a little bit on how you and I got introduced. I actually reached out to you a number of years ago when you first. You probably don't know this. You had posted, "Hey, we're looking for a place to live," and our we had our house outside of in Norrlind or Söder Lindberg, and we said you can rent our house, but it was a little bit far from downtown Leksand.
Yeah, I think I remember this. Not that it was you, but I remember the conversation I had, and we were talking about it, me and my wife, and we thought it's like a little bit too far away because we want to be, when we live right now in Leksand, we live just like 1 kilometer from the rink, and that's how we like it. The kids can take the bike and then just go. We don't have to like drive them everywhere. So that's what we said. If we're gonna move to Leksand, we gotta be close to the core.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the right. I mean, that's one of the beauties about a small town like Leksand and people playing hockey in Leksand, and especially we're going to talk about your kids as we get a little deeper here, but it's amazing how whether you're 10 years old riding your bike to the rink, or you're Philip Forsberg who rides his bike to the rink to practice, it's kind of how it is. And people that are living close in this community, it's definitely a unique and a super positive aspect of Leksand and Leksand hockey.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the reasons why so many ex-players they settle down in Leksand, because they like it there, and it's simple life. We don't have everything, but the life we live here, it's like so simple and not so stressful. If you like live in a big city or something, you have to be stuck in the car for, I don't know, maybe an hour to work or something. But here it's just you ride a bike, and if it's rainy, you take the car.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. So let's go back a little bit on your background, because I've got my Elite Prospects open here, and it says that you were originally from Örebro. Is that just the is that where you grew up?
No, it's just what do you say, birthplace?
Yeah.
I was born in Örebro, but I'm from Guldsmedshyttan.
Okay, where is that?
It's 50 kilometers from Örebro. Do you know Lindesberg?
Yep. So Lindesberg.
Yeah,
okay.
It's close to Lindesberg. My father lives in Lindesberg now, and my mom is in Guldsmedshyttan still. So that's where I grew up.
Really good. So and if we fast forward, you played youth hockey there until juniors, and then you ended up in Brynäs.
Yeah, that's right.
Were when you grew up, who was your coaches that in Guldsmedshyttan? That was your father involved?
Yeah, he was involved until I was 14, I think, something like that. And then my cousin's father, he was coach all the way up. But my last year, when I still played home, I played with the senior team, the older guys. So I think we had the under 18 team, and then I played with the big guys.
Yeah. Were you always? For those who don't know who you are, I mean, the way you're a big guy. Have you always been a big guy? Even as a kid?
No, not really. I wasn't. I've never been small, but I don't think I was like super big as I am right now, or I was when I was like playing in the elite league. When I was younger, we always played with the guys who were born. I'm born '85, so we didn't have a team, so we played with the guys who were born '84. So I think that also made us look a little smaller.
Well, I can remember when I was growing up in Leksand, my birth year, I'm 75. So Stefan Bergqvist and Niklas Nordqvist was on my team, and they were a head taller than everybody else. And they're younger than you, and you probably don't. They were not necessarily. I mean, Stefan Bergqvist played. He may have played when he came back a little bit with same time as you did, but very, very big. And they were always big. And I remember when I was 12, they looked like they were 16. So they had a distinct advantage. But anyway, so how did you end up in Brynäs? And at the time, so where was Brynäs at the time? So this is 2001, 2002. So their elite S8, it was Elite Serien back then. Were they, what were their level? They're in Allsvenskan now, but they had some big time players there at that time. So
yeah, I think after we played TV-pucken and we went for some, I don't know, regional camp or whatever, the camp that you have before you go to the national team.
Yep.
So I think I was doing that one, and then we started looking at different scenarios where I could go and play. So we went to visit Södertälje. I went to Västerås as well, and then I went to Brynäs. So I was at these three places, just looking at the town and looking at the rink and all that. And I got the best feeling for Brynäs. So that's why we picked Brynäs. And I think the elite team, didn't they win like 99? So it's like 2 years before. So they had a lot of good players. But they had an old team. Really old team.
Yeah, and I'm looking at it. It looks like that they struggled that year. If I'm just pulling up, because I saw that you played a little bit in the 2002-2003 year with them.
Yeah, my second year, I think.
And that must not have been a great year for them. For that, if I'm looking at if I'm pulling up the stats, a lot of people were in minus and they were in Kvalserien. But Ove Molin,
Tommy Sjödin,
Per Jos, yeah. So some big time names in here for sure.
Yeah, Janne Larsson.
Yeah. So what was your?
They had a
Yeah,
really good team, but
go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think they had an older team, and as you said, they were struggling. I remember I think all the years I played there, I think I had a contract with the A team for 3 years, and we were like finishing at the bottom every year. So it was a tough couple of years. And then they brought in Leif Bork as a head coach, and he was
Okay.
doing this experiment where he had like the big squad. So they had like 35 guys under contract. So when they brought him in, I went to Altoona because I was there for loan when it was the lockout year.
Yeah.
So they brought in some NHL players. So I went to Altoona just to get some more experience from the play with the senior guys.
Yeah.
So that's basically what happened there, because I didn't play much in Brynäs. I was most of the time I was sitting on the bench and eating sandwich.
You're doing like what's his name in Vegas was eating a hot dog on the bench. No, maybe
Phil
not that.
Kessel.
Phil Kessel.
Yeah.
The legend. But okay, so what was if you think back at the time in Brynäs, you've already played with men before you went to Brynäs. You were recruited to go there. You chose to go there. So on that, any profiles you remember from the time from that junior team in J20 that you played with?
Well, we had one kid who's pretty good right now, Niklas Bäckström.
He's okay.
He's okay. Yeah. I think it was the same with the junior teams. We weren't really that good, but we had some players. Niklas Danielsson came the second year. He had a decent career as well. But other than that, I don't think we had that many. Jakob Blomqvist, he's been an elite player for many years. I think he still plays for Brynäs now. Yeah, I think he's staying there. So
okay.
There was some players, but I don't think that Brynäs was really a good organization back then with the junior level. And then what happened after, because they had a lot of good players who came out of that system years later with Jan Krok and Silverberg, all those guys.
Yeah.
So they learned something. They got better, and I think Ove Molin is a big part of that, because he started to work with these guys when he retired. So I think he's a big part of that.
Yeah. All right, and then I'm gonna be very rude here by saying I'm almost gonna fast forward through your elite career, but only because it's so long and super impressive. I mean, it's you've been in a lot of different organizations, but I want to hone in on a couple of things because you went to Binghamton, so you got drafted in 2003, right?
Yeah.
How was that? I mean, did you know that you were going to get drafted?
No, I didn't know I was going to get drafted, but I remember I had a bunch of meetings with some of the Swedish scouts. So I knew there was a chance that I was going to get drafted. And then I think I got picked in the fourth round.
Yeah.
130 something.
135th by Ottawa Senators.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what team. I know that, but I didn't remember the number. Yeah, but that was something special.
Yeah.
I don't really. It's so long ago now. I don't really remember how I felt, honestly. But it was for one part, it was really like nerve-wracking, because they called me right away, and like this guy talk. I don't know if Brian Murray called me or someone else. I don't remember, but someone called me from the office, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we picked you," blah blah blah, and they wanted me to come for like a development camp right away, and I felt like I was gonna shit my pants. Like, I can't go there. It's like competing with the men with beard and stuff, and I was just 18 little boy. So, but it was a fun thing, and I think it's a big shout out to Anders Hedberg, who was the guy who actually tell him to pick me, and also he's the guy behind me getting a contract. So I think that was all him. And even though I didn't get to play in an NHL game, I think that they should be pretty happy with what I did there. The short of time I played, it was a phenomenal year for me playing in Binghamton.
Yeah.
I was a little bit unlucky year before. When I signed the contract, I was going to go over. I was out skating with a friend with no pads on, and he cut me with a skate. So I cut my knee tendon off just before I was going to go to camp.
Oh.
So I missed. I went over, just did the rehab and stuff. And I think I came back on the ice in October or November. So they put me right away. I remember I skated once in Ottawa, because I stayed in Ottawa for the treatment. I skated once up in Ottawa, and the doctor called, and he's like, "Yeah, you're good to go now." So they sent me down to Binghamton. I had no idea where this Binghamton place was. So I went there. I came down late. I think it was a Friday or a Saturday. So I asked the lady in the hotel reception, like, where's the rink? And she just pointed, "Oh, it's over there." So I went to check it out. It was like 9 p.m, I think. So Binghamton played a game. So I came in the third period of the game. I watched it, and then after the game, I went down to the locker room, because I still have a lot of friends there. So I came down, and the coaches, they were gonna, I don't know, they took me aside and like, "Can you play?" And I told them, "I've been on the ice once. I didn't even have pucks." So they said, "You're gonna play tomorrow." So they threw me in the game, and the only skating I had was the practice in Ottawa with no pucks, and in the morning we had like this morning skate. So it was the first time I touched the puck, and then they played me at night, and the game obviously didn't go very good for me. So I played that game, and then I was practicing for a week, and then we went to Norfolk. So I played one out of the 2 games, and then they told me, "I think it's better you go home and continue the season home, and come back next year." So that's what happened. I went back to Karlskoga, where I was playing before. And then just before trading deadline, I got a call from Färjestad. So I went to play for Färjestad, had a really good playoff run with them. And then I came over the season after, play the whole season.
So how was it then? I mean, Binghamton, I've been to Binghamton, and it's kind of all places, it's not that it's not that different. It's in New York, right? Binghamton, New York.
Yes.
It's not that. I mean, the area there is kind of like Sweden almost. If you look at New York, it's not what you would think of New York, but not that big of a place. And
no, I think when you talk to people, other Swedes, every time they come to Binghamton, they say it's the worst place to be. So it's not a good. It's not what you want to hear. But I don't know. I didn't think it was that bad, because you had a team, you have the guys, and then me and my wife, we had our first son the year before, so he was 1 when we came over. So okay. I think we had a pretty good time. It was a fun year, I think.
Yeah.
And I think what made it fun was I had a hell of a season. That's why everything just worked out so well.
Yeah, and I mean, you didn't have. I mean, that's kind of early too, though, in your career. And yeah, 73 games, 51 points 40 penalty minutes, and at a really, really high level. How close were you to get called up, or because there were, so who was Binghamton's, is that Ottawa's farm team then?
Yeah.
Who were playing, who were you competing with to get called up in Ottawa? Remember?
Brian Lee, first rounder.
Yeah.
I think he's born 87 or something.
Not a big deal.
He played for Tampa after Ottawa, I think. I think he was the guy because he was up. I remember when I came over that year, I think I was cut as there were 9 defenders and they cut me from Ottawa. So I think I was pretty close, but not close enough. And then when we went to Binghamton, things worked out really well. We had a guy called Brian Bell, I think. His last name was Bell. He was a really good defenseman. Him and I played together in Binghamton.
Brendan Bell. Yeah, Brendan Bell.
Brendan Bell. Yeah, that's his name. So he was really good. So they called him up early, and he was up there. And then we have this Brian Lee, who was up and down. And I know, like, the coach in Binghamton, he took me aside more than once, and he told me, like, it should be you. You should be the one going up. But they kept taking the first rounder up. And I think it's a part of how it works.
Yeah.
So I'm a little bit. That's the only thing that I'm like. I feel like I'm missing because I have no regrets in my career. I could have done so many things better. I know, but with what I had to work with, I think, and where I come from, I did a lot. And there's nothing to be sad about. I'm like, okay, maybe if you would have worked harder, you could have made this team. Or I kind of feel the other way around, because if I was doing stuff different, I don't think it would work for me. Because I want to be a normal person. I want to eat whatever I want. If I want to have a beer, I want to have a beer. I think I wanted to live my life like a normal person, even though I was at an elite level.
Yeah.
I think, and all the people, everyone is not like that. Some people live for the opportunity to get a chance somewhere, and they eat, they sleep hockey. But I was not like that, and I don't think I could have managed to play this long if I were doing that.
Yeah. Well, so if I look at, I mean, how do you even talk about your career? But I want to hone in a little bit. I mean, you played you played almost at every level, at the top level in Sweden, in US. You played a year in the KHL. You played in international competitions, and the crown of the entire career has to be bringing Leksand up to the SHL.
Yeah, it is. Because if you look at all my stats and the teams I played for, I have nothing to show for like a win in the last game. I have never won a championship or something like that. So this was a huge part for me. And I think to be a part of that Leksand team, Leksand is a big thing here in Sweden. They have so many fans. And I don't know if there's any team that it's like better to get promoted with. Maybe if you play for Djurgården, it's going to be a different thing because it's like the capital of Sweden. But if you just look at the classical teams, I think it's going to be the same thing now when if Brynäs managed to go up again. Like those guys who are going to be on that team, they're going to be heroes.
Yeah.
And that's how I felt. And I know I have a fun story from that year because I missed a couple of games around Christmas. I tore my I don't even know how to say it in English. Whatever. I had a shoulder injury. I was out for 3 weeks or something, 4 weeks maybe. And I missed a game early in the season, and I think I missed the game just before the end of the season. But all the games I missed, Leksand didn't win a single game. They lost every game I didn't play that season. So now you know the reason why we went up.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Let's get that on the record here, right? So who was the because that was the year. Was that the year when Jon Knuts was never got out of the skates on the way home when you went up?
Yeah, he had the whole equipment on.
Yeah,
for the bus ride home.
I think it was that those pictures were put on Spittin' Chicklets or all over here, and it was a special season. And so who ended up finishing the year as the coach then? Was that when
Roger Melin?
So Roger Melin. So that was not the year that Perra came in and...
No, Perra was there when they eliminated Modo.
Yeah, that was the first time that they went up and then they dropped down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely. And I'm looking at the roster of there. So since this is kind of, we could talk forever about your senior career, but I really want to hone in since we're talking about juniors and segue into your role. Yes, you had the A on the sweater. But you were the general with the defensive core. But what was your role with the young guys? Because you had Stöffling, Kalle Schelin, who else were the young guys? Filip Johansson, Axel Bergqvist. Yeah, I played with Axel's dad.
Yeah, I met him a couple of weeks ago, Per Agnar.
Yeah, he was a year younger than me. Yeah.
No, but I think because when I signed there, we had Leif Karlsson as coach.
Yep.
And I think they almost gave me like a special assignment. It was like, you're going to play with Filip Johansson and you're going to take care of him. And I think that that was fun for me. And not only Filip, because we had this 3 defensemen who were like really good, and they were so young. Filip, Axel, and Kalle. And just look at them now. Like Kalle, he had a phenomenal season, and he signed with Florida. He hasn't played NHL yet, I think. And same thing with Filip. Like he was struggling in Leksand. And then he came to Frölunda, like he reset everything, and now he's so good.
Yeah.
And I like the way that Axel, he took a different path, and he went to play the juniors in Canada, right?
Yeah, he was there with Karlsson. Andreas Karlsson was there as the coach then.
Yeah, so he played there, and then he came home, played for Mora. He was doing really well, and he signed with Färjestad. So, and he's been doing well in Karlstad, I know. So I think for me, it was just it was a good step for me. The year before, I was we lost to Timrå, so we lost the SHL place, and that was a tough beat. So it was a good bounce back for me to try to be like a mentor for these young guys who really wanted to become good hockey players, and at the same time play with a fun team, play in front of the super excited fans. Yeah, it was special.
Yeah. So if we think about, so when we're looking at, so we're just finished this week with the draft here, and we had I think 5 or 6 Swedish guys that are drafted in the NHL in the first round. And I'm looking at guys like Bergqvist, Filip Johansson, Kalle Schelin that are, I mean, super talents and so on. But one of the reasons that they have, I mean, the path that they were groomed and the ability to go in young and have the opportunity to play, be the best of the best at J20. They come in hockey gymnasium, they get big roles in J20, and then they have the opportunity to practice and play with men and really get experience what it takes. And I think that's a beauty of the Swedish system for those elite players. What's your view on that?
First of all, it's so hard to go from the 20 team to play with the elite guys, and for us, we played in Allsvenskan, so the step is not that big. And honestly, I think for the guys who actually go to hockey gymnasium and they have the elite team is playing in Allsvenskan, I think it's a little bit of an advantage because
take Djurgården
it's going to be easier. Yeah, it's going to be easier. Maybe not Djurgården because they're going to probably build a hell of a team. So guys are not going to be able to play, but I think maybe it's going to be the same thing there. They have to play younger kids because with the salaries and all that, yep, they can't pay everyone as much money. So because I'm looking at Brynäs, I don't know if they're going to be room for the young guys. I'm not sure. Maybe Lindstedt is going to play, I think. What's his name? Lindstein. Theo, yeah, the guy who got drafted.
Yeah, he just got drafted. And I mean, I think that it's a little bit of a weird time with Allsvenskan this year because the teams that are there are so loaded and they're kind of big budget Allsvenskan team, which is weird.
Yeah.
And it may be a uniqueness now, but like you're saying, I think it's tough for, I mean, if you were playing J20 in Leksand or Färjestad or the SHL teams, there's 1 or 2 spots that maybe is up for grabs, and that's it.
Yeah, and that's at the end of the line. So you're not going to play big minutes. You can just look at the Leksand. They 2 players from the Leksand junior team. One guy went to play for Västerås now. And defenseman Lagerberg, he went to, or was it?
Down south somewhere.
Tingsryd or something.
Yeah.
So they go elsewhere to get the precious ice time and maybe get a chance to play a little bit higher up in the squad. I think if, let's say the Hannes Hellberg, the guy who actually, I don't know, he scored 200 goals or something. He had a hell of a season this year. He scored a lot of goals. It's not right to put him on the 4th line in Leksand because that's not what he's going to do. And I think he's not, if you just look at the top 6 Leksand have, there's no way he's going to be able to crack that lineup. So it's a good move to sign him and just hand him over to Västerås and maybe, I don't know. I think they also have a pretty good team, so it's not sure that he's going to be on 2 lines there. But maybe if he can be like a good player in the 3rd line and someone gets injured, he plays on 6 forwards. I think it's the best way to get education that you need, because you need to play the senior hockey. You need to play with men.
Yeah.
It's not, you can't play with the junior guys forever.
Yeah. So what is, if you were going to say, all right, if I ask you, all right, since we just talked about the NHL draft, but it's been consistent, and when you talk to people over here that are about Swedish players, but you know, they always have a good feel for Swedish players and a good opinion of Swedish players that are coming over. But why are there so many good players coming from Sweden? What is it about the system that breeds good hockey players in Sweden?
Well, if I knew that, I would be working somewhere else. No, but I think that we are actually pretty good to we take care of the former players who we think can bring something to the table in case of educating the young. If you look at all the elite teams, they have ex-players who are working as coaches in the club. Maybe not in the G20. Maybe they start work with 14-year-olds and then they work their way up. And I think we also have a pretty good education system for the coaches. There's a lot of things you have to go through to even be able to stand on the bench for being like a under 20 coach.
Yeah.
So I think we've developed a system that actually works really well. And also, I think just for the players, the system we have where they play really, really good games with the junior teams, and some of them, they go on loan to like Division 1 or Allsvenskan. It's good for them because they need the experience from the men's game.
Yeah. Well, and I think that is the the ability to come in when you are a junior and you can play up in the J20. If you're 17, you can play up, or you can play down, and you can play here and you can play there. There's very few restrictions in compared to the US, where you are on one team and you cannot. There's so many rules, and I think that there's a lot more freedom in Sweden on the ability to play. There's less restrictions to be able to, if you want to play more or practice more, there's so many opportunities to do it.
Yeah, and probably that's a part of why, because so many guys are stacking up a lot of games. Just look at Dahlin before he went over to Buffalo.
Yep.
I heard something that he played like 100 games that season. And I think that's a big part of why people develop, because they play a lot of games.
So let me bring this back to a town like Leksand, because whether it's a town like Leksand or where Rasmus came from, which is Lidköping, or so they have the practice facility, but every little town has a outdoor rink. And so, and maybe this is a good segue for your new career, which is after you end up playing your career as the dad, because you have 3 kids, right?
Yeah, 3 boys.
2 boys that are playing, Liam, and what's the second?
His name is Louis.
Louis. Okay, so Liam, Louis. So when they were growing up and you've been traveling around, but they fit in and they play on their youth team, but after practice, they're all hanging around the rinks. They're out and about with a hockey stick in their hand.
Yeah, and that's a big difference here from like the other places that we've lived there where they played. Because now I can just leave the rink. I don't have to wait for them because they manage to get home by themselves. So You don't want to be that kind of parent who just tell them to hurry up because we have to get home. The locker room thing is a big part of why you play hockey, and that's I think for everyone who has played, as soon as you retire, the one thing you miss the most is be able to sit in the locker room and just talk to people.
Yeah. And the same thing goes with a 15-year-old or 17-year-old, right?
Yeah, it's the same thing for them because they spend a lot of time at the rink, not necessarily in their locker room, but they are at the rink and they're watching other games together and they watch practice and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's a lifestyle. They like to be at the rink, so we should leave them there so
Yeah.
they don't end up doing some other crazy stuff.
Yeah. I guess a little bit of, I mean, I think that's the intent too, for those who don't know, in a town like Leksand, who had Drömmarnas Arena, or the little practice pad behind the practice rink that was started. Of course, it burned down, so it's unfortunate, but it was, you know, they have a shooting pad right next to it, and you have a dry land area with boards, and the idea is for people to just be able to come and play without parents, without practice times. There's no organized practice. What are the kids, since that burnt down, and it's eventually they'll rebuild it, but where do they go and do that now?
Well, if we're lucky enough, we have some folks around who they just make ice surface a little bit everywhere.
Yeah.
In between houses or on their backyard. There's a lot of people who have their own rinks here in Leksand. I think, unfortunately, the weather hasn't been that good the last 2 years. I remember my first year when we moved here. I think they held the ice for like 3 months straight because there was like this perfect weather for the rink. So they had one just outside. It was actually on the schoolyard. So the kids, as soon as the school were out, they just put the skates on and they were skating for hours. And I don't know, right now it's we've had some issues with the second rink, the practice arena. So now they're putting this. I don't even know how to say it.
Yeah, they're pouring concrete. Yeah, they're putting a concrete pad in.
Yeah. So hopefully that will make everything a lot better. I think it's gonna be easier for them to do the ice. And hopefully, I'm just saying, hopefully they could maybe keep the ice over the summer. I think this is also part of why our young players are developing in a very fast pace, because some of them they spend a lot of hours on the ice, even in the summer. I don't know the answer, but I think if you can do it, you don't have to do it every week. But I think it's, at the end of the day, it's about hours.
Yeah.
How many hours do you spend on the ice? You cannot only say that because you can stand still. I'm standing still on the ice. I'm not getting better, but the kids are moving. They're having fun, and if they do that and they're on the ice a lot more hours than others, yeah, they're gonna get better. Well, for sure.
So if people go in and they look at your Instagram videos that you know post, and I think that it's a good snapshot of a natural fluidity and natural. When I'm looking at that, that is not a trained behavior on how those kids that are out there with you, and I know your kids are out there, and they're so fluid, their edges are so incredible, And I think it's coming from those small area games that when they're just playing non-organized. But then
some of it does for sure.
Yeah, but then you could take it and then hone it. The base is from just playing around and developing the body, but then you have the ability to now structurally do things that improves it.
Yeah, that's right. And I think, as you say, it's a big part of why, like, it should be fun. And that's why I like the few times in our rink where we have the chance to just play around. They can just go out and there's 40 people on the ice and they're just skating around. They're playing small games everywhere. It's so important for them to just play with the guy who's 2 years older or compete with the guy who are 2 years younger. They help each other to get better, and they do it while they have fun. And I don't know, the things that I'm doing, like, we've been working so much with our group. I've been coaching the 09s in Leksand. We put so much time and effort into, like, move right on the ice, like trust your edges and all that. And I think it's been paying off very good. And some of the guys look really smooth when they're skating, and honestly, it's gonna help you. I don't know. It's a different game now, how it was when I was playing, because I think the first time I had a skating coach, I was 33 maybe. So I didn't know what that was. I'd never been to a camp. I went to, like, these hockey schools. It was actually in Falun. I was for 3 years with the Thomas Jonsson hockey school.
Yeah.
Nowadays, if you go to a hockey school, you go to the hockey school because it's fun. You go there because you want to meet new friends, and you want to have some fun. But the other kids who want to get better at hockey, they go to different camps. So I think there's difference now. It's obvious there is a big difference. So it's kind of what you're looking for. But the most important thing is that you got to have fun. And I can see for some kids it's not fun because it's their parents who actually, like, live the dream right now. Yeah. They want to have the career that they never got themselves. So you can see that in some kids, and that's not good.
Yeah. So how does that? I mean, now so you've transitioned from your role as a player, and now your position as a dad that loves the game, and it's clear that you have a talent to be able to give back without huge pressures. But what are the things that you're trying to? Is that the message that you're trying to instill with these guys? Is have fun, but also work hard? Or how does that, because your kids are getting to the age where they're getting serious about hockey too. So you're providing those opportunities to learn and to play and get a lot of repetition and a lot of ice time. But how do you mix in the fun?
Well, if you just tell them that there's a game, everyone thinks it's fun. So it's not so hard to get something like fun. But yeah, my oldest one, he's just been through the TV-pucken. He didn't make that team, and they have these call outs for the hockey gymnasium. So it's been like a tough year. It's a lot of choices, and on top of that, you have because he was playing with the under 16 last year, and we have 2 teams. So if you want to, some guys didn't make the first team. My oldest one, he was playing with the first team. So it's a tough year where there's going to be a lot of things going with or against you. So just gotta, I don't know, you just gotta talk to them and try to make them understand that this is not the end. No matter what happens, this is not going to be the end.
Yeah.
I play with so many good players when I was young who didn't become hockey players. And when I got older, I played with I don't know how many good hockey players that didn't play TV-pucken, or they played Division One until 2 seasons ago, and then now they're starring as a shell. So you can take whatever path you like. You just got to make sure that you're having fun, and as you said, you have to work hard. That's like the most important thing. If you don't work hard, you gotta have that like inner motivation that when the other guys are not working out, you are the one working out. Like if you're behind, how are you gonna get ahead of them? Like if you think like that, maybe I think that you do have a chance.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that there are certainly different paths, and you've seen it in your career and now as a dad and helping others, how hard it is how few that are in those roles to be able to make that spot. TV puck tournament, NIU, J20 national, but NHL draft. I mean, the path is not linear, and people think it's linear, and they're going to say, I'm going from here to here to here to here. And I think the character is grown when you have a bump in the road and say, oh, now what? I didn't make that team. Does that mean that I'm going to break and I'm going to quit, or am I going to now work even harder to move forward? Some will, some won't,
Yeah, and I think if you look back to it, how many guys are actually just making that team, or like they can handle move up every time? It's like, well, Elias Pettersson, he did it, and there's other guys who can do it as well. Rasmus Dahlin did it.
Yeah,
but for 99% of the other people, they have to try, and they're not going to make it. And then they come back and they try again. It's as I say, it's a part of life.
Yeah, I mean,
you can't expect to always like succeed. At some point you are gonna fail.
And failure's good.
It is. It's really good. It's what makes you better if you learn something from it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, let's round out by so I've asked this question to other people, but if you look back and say, okay, if I met Kolan, 17-year-old Kolan back in the day, it's a few years ago now, but what advice would you give? What you know now, you're much wiser, and now you're a dad, so it's almost, but what advice would you have given to yourself when you were 17? That if you look back and say, oh, man, I wish I would have had me now sitting here telling myself this, and it would have done this for me in the future.
First of all, I know if 17-year-old me would get these things, I wouldn't listen. That's what I think. But I don't know. It's really hard. You put me on the spot here. No, I just think like if I'm looking back, what I think that I was missing, maybe I didn't really have the extra drive that you need to like go all the way. I went far enough, but I didn't go all the way. So it doesn't bother me.
There's no regrets.
Like over.
I don't sense any regrets. I don't sense that in our conversation.
No, it's not. I'm just super happy that I get to live out my childhood dream. and now I'm 38. I'm retired, and I can do whatever I want. So I feel like I succeeded with the hockey part, and that's why I'm doing what I do now, because I want to give back to all the young ones. It's kind of the question that you asked me. It's like I want to give out so much information to all the young kids now, and I feel every time I tell them stuff, it's like, okay, why didn't someone tell me this?
Yeah.
Like, I think this would be useful if someone told me when I was 12, like, to do this. So I don't really know what to say there on your question, but as I said, I'm just trying to give back to the kids what I've learned, what I've been through, just to get them a little bit more prepared.
No, I think that's awesome. And just to kind of, for those who don't know, I mean, you're going to be helping Kolan as a skills coach and part of that staff in Hockeyettan this fall coming up, right?
I can say this, that my main goal with the work there is I'm going to help the 15-16, the under 16 team. And the days I'm there working, everyone else in the organization can use me. So I'm going to stay. If I go there, I'll be there at, I don't know, maybe 3 o'clock. And if the teams who have practice the same night, if they want me on the ice, I stay on the ice. So I can go home at 10 in the evening. So they have the opportunity to use me if they like. If they don't, I only work with the 16s and then I go home. But
Yeah.
hopefully someone thinks it's a good idea to use me, and I will be there for them.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I just think that embodies Swedish hockey to me. I left 30 years ago, and I still think back of guys like you that genuinely cares. They do it because of the love of the game. They're not doing it because, I want to propel myself here, but really, and I think that's the best kind of a mentor out there. The onus now are on people to say, I have this tremendous resource here. How do I take advantage of it, and how do I use it? And you're there to fill people's cups with knowledge and experience. And it could be a little thing. I can tell you, I'm 48, and I still think back at, the guys that did that for me when I was 10, 12, 13 in different sports. And I'm going back to Sweden here in a couple of weeks, and I can't wait to go back to those guys in different sports that were mentors more in life than the skill of XYZ sport. So kudos to you, and good luck moving forward.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for coming on and having the taking the time to kind of talk about these things. You're a profile out there, and we appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a fun hour.
Yeah.